Take one.
My name is Victoria Winters. The great house of Collinwood perches on the crest of Widow's Hill in seeming isolation from the world around it. Yet the long shadows of fear do reach out, touching others, darkening their hearts with growing tension.
Give me a beer, will you, Punchy?
Hello, son.
Oh, hi, Mr. Evans.
Why don't you come on over and join me? Bring your beer and come on and sit down. Put it on my tab, Mike.
Oh, no, I couldn't let you do that.
Oh, come on. Don't deny an old man his pleasure, son. Especially on a sad day like this. Sit down, Joe. Yeah. It's a terrible day. When a good friend dies, you sit around and wonder what the world is like.
Gee, I didn't know Mr. Malloy was a good friend of yours.
That he was. One of the best. Yeah, he was a very great man, Joe. Of course, you only knew him as your boss at the cannery, but he was one of the finest men that ever walked the face of this earth. Shall we, drink to his memory?
Yeah, of course.
You, haven't been up to Collinwood since they've taken Bill's body out of the water, have you?
Nope.
But, surely you, must have spoken to them. I mean, after all, Caroline is your lady love.
No, I haven't, not yet.
Well, then you have no idea how they're taking it, huh?
Mr. Evans, all I know is that they ordered the plant closed for the rest of the day. That's how I happen to be in here.
Yeah. Bill Malloy dies, and they close the cannery in his memory. A gesture. Well, son, soon there'll be more things than that closed.
What do you think you're doing?
Reading.
Have you seen my mother? Maybe she's in the study.
No, she's not.
How do you know?
Because that's where I got this book. She wasn't in there. That's how I know.
She's probably still lying down.
Probably.
You should be outside. I suppose you know that.
Uh-huh. Carolyn, could you tell me something?
I'll tell you that you'd better go outside because that's where my mother wanted you to be today.
I know, because Mr. Malloy died and everybody's sad.
Isn't that a good enough reason?
Where was his body?
What?
Where was Mr. Malloy's body? You and Miss Winters saw it at the bottom of the cliff, didn't you?
David, I'd rather not talk about it.
But, Carolyn, I have to know. It's important.
Is it? Well, maybe it is to you, David. But I'd like to forget I ever saw it.
That's silly. And he's dead. What difference does it make now?
David, can't you see that... Oh, you'll never understand.
Gee, you don't have to make such a big thing out of it. All I want to know is where he was, the exact spot.
What else would you like to know, David? Whether his eyes were open or closed, how he was dressed?
No, none of that matters. Only the exact spot where he floated to shore.
David, you're disgusting. Do you know that?
Why? What did I say?
A dear, dear friend has died, and I just don't want to talk about it.
Why not? I mean, you can't make him alive again, can you?
No, I'm afraid not.
So what difference does it make?
Because I'm sick of it. I'm sick of death and fears and ghosts. And this house. Especially this house.
What's wrong with it? I think it's fun.
Fun. Well, wait till you've grown up in it the way I have. Wait till you spend years surrounded by these walls. Maybe then you'll see just how much fun it is.
Gee, Carolyn, what other kid gets to live in a house where there are real ghosts?
All right, David. Forget it.
Carolyn, if you don't like it, why don't you just go away?
It isn't that easy, David.
Sure, it's scary sometimes, but I have lots of friends here.
You? Friends?
Sure, out on Widow's Hill, and in all the rooms that are closed off. They're all my friends, Carolyn. Who knows? Maybe even Mr. Malloy will come back.
All right, David. That's enough.
Well, he will, unless someone can find out what happened to him.
David, we know what happened to him. He drowned.
But you have to know more. You have to know the exact spot where he landed in the water. Don't you think that's important?
Well, I suppose so. I never thought about it.
Well, I did. That's why I got these books. They're all about tides and currents and wind currents and stuff like that.
What about them?
That's why I wanted to know exactly where he landed into the water. Then maybe I could find out where he came from.
Can the police figure it out, Joe?
Well, depends on how much information they have.
Well, you're a good fisherman. You ought to know about ocean currents.
Oh, Mr. Evans, there's so many factors involved.
Huh? Like what?
Well, to start with, they have to know about the time that Mr. Malloy's body landed in the water.
Uh-huh. Suppose they know that, then what?
Well, then they have to know what time it came to rest on Widow's Hill.
And after that?
Well, then it's a matter of using a tide chart, finding out the prevailing current, the wind conditions. I suppose I have to work backwards toward it.
Joe, just answer me yes or no. Could the police tell the exact spot where Bill Malloy's body fell in the water?
Oh, not exactly, but approximately, I think so. Yeah, they'll probably end up with about 2 or 3 possible locations.
Oh, how about another beer, son?
I haven't finished this one yet.
Well, then, drink up. This is a day for remembering and forgetting.
I imagine the police are working on those tide charts right now.
I think I'm going to order you another beer anyway.
Hello, Sam.
Hello, George.
Haskell, how are you?
Okay, sure.
You mind if I join you?
Social or business?
That's the trouble with my job, Sam. Even when I'm being social, I can't forget about business. I hear the cannery was closed for the rest of the day.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah, it really is a shame the way a goodsman's death can be a benefit to some people.
What do you mean by that?
Why, Sam? What did you think I meant?
Oh, I don't know. It just sounded strange.
Strange? Why, Joe here gets a beautiful afternoon off, and why? Because a man died. That's all I meant. You're not going to waste it sitting here in a bar, are you, Joe?
I just dropped in here for a beer.
Well, if I were you, I'd get in my car, pick up my girl, and go for a nice long ride in the country.
The boy's keeping me company.
Kids sure have changed these days. If I'd gone with a girl, as long as Joe here has been chasing Carolyn Stoddard, I'd either have hog-tied her by now or I'd have set her loose.
Oh, I think that's his business.
Well, I guess you're right. Absolutely right. I hope I didn't hurt your feelings.
Sheriff, you haven't said a thing that I didn't say to myself months ago.
Well, go on then. Get something out of the day.
Yeah, I guess you're right. Thanks for the beer, Mr. Evans. So long, Sheriff.
So long, son. Enjoy yourself. He's a nice boy.
Yeah.
Well, Sam, now just you and me.
I figured it out.
What?
I went down to the rocks and I figured out the exact spot where Mr. Malloy's body must have been. Maybe the exact spot doesn't matter that much. Well,
David, come back here.
now what?
Didn't you understand anything I said to you?
Sure, you don't like this house.
David, I'm talking about Mr. Malloy. What you're doing, it's morbid. Can't you see that?
No, because I don't know what that means. There's someone at the door.
Hi, Carol.
Hello, Joe. Listen, you know anybody who wants to buy a 9-year-old horror? There's one for sale in there. Cheap.
David? Oh, he's not so bad. Honey, I've been meaning to call you to tell you how bad I felt about Mr. Malloy.
Which is more than I can say for my cousin.
Look, why don't you get out of the house for a while? I thought maybe you and me could take a little drive.
Only if you promise not to stop. Only if you say we'll keep going until we're 10,000 miles away from this place.
Just settle for 50?
Oh, boy, Joe, am I glad you're here.
Hey, listen, I hear you've been giving your cousin a hard time.
I bet you could help me. I bet you know all about this stuff.
David, stop it. I'll go up and change. I'll be right back.
Joe, you know all about ebb currents and stuff
David,
like
I asked you to stop that.
All I want is some help, Carolyn. That's all.
Help with what? What's this all about?
I'm trying to solve a murder.
Murder? Whoever said it was murder?
Seems I can't have a friendly conversation without getting called to the phone. Now, what were we talking about?
Bill Malloy.
Oh, yes, your old friend.
That, who the phone call was about?
No, just a couple of characters down on the docks got into a fight. Good friends, too. You know, it really gets me the way a fellow will start beating up on someone he calls his friend. Oh, boy, the smoke is terrible in here. Let's get out of here. What do you say, huh?
No, I don't notice it.
Listen, Sam, you and I have got to have a nice, long talk, and this is not the place to do it. Now, come on, let's go.
Where to?
How about my office?
Joe? Joe, where are you?
In here, honey. Okay, now, Debbie, you have to figure on the ebb current. So you look at your tide table for that day
Oh,
and figure
Joe,
out
for
exactly...
heaven's sakes, you too?
Oh, I'm just showing David how these tide tables work.
You're as bad as he is.
Look, it'll just take a second. I'll be right with you. You know,
Take as long as you want.
Hey, Carolyn, wait a second. Wait a minute, honey.
Joe, you said you were going to take me for a ride. But if you'd rather play games with David, then go right ahead and do it.
Honey, you're being silly.
No, I'm not. I just don't like Bill's death being used as an exercise in mathematics.
I just got interested in the problem, that's all.
Joe, he's dead. Can't you let him rest?
Sure. Come on, let's go out.
Well, if you're sure that's what you want to do.
Only partly.
Well, if you'd rather be with David.
What I would rather do, Carolyn, is not just take you out of this house for a drive. I'd rather make it a lot longer than that.
All right, Joe.
You know what someone said to me today? Maybe I better not tell you.
What did someone say to you today?
Well, they said there came a time when a fella either had to hog-tie his girl or let her loose.
I see. And which did you decide to do?
Joe, I think I have something figured out. I need your help.
Oh, I guess you're going to have to ask somebody else, David. Why don't you try your father?
Joe, please.
I'm sorry, pal. You wouldn't want me to lose my girl, would you? Huh? Come on, you're doing fine with it. You just keep going, you'll get it. Okay? All set?
Well, which did you decide? You're going to hog-tie me or let me go?
Let's go for that drive, and I'll tell you.
Joe.
David, I tell you what, you take it to your father. I'm sure he can help you.
Rip it up. Because he'd be scared.
Come on.
Come on in, Sam. Sit down.
What is it you want from me, George?
Answers, Sam. Questions and answers. That's what half my job amounts to.
Well, if there's anything I can tell you,
Tell me about the meeting.
Meeting.
Bill Malloy called a meeting between you, Roger Collins, and Burke Devlin on the night he died.
Well, how did you know he died that night? I mean, he disappeared, but that doesn't mean...
All right, we'll get back to that. Right now, I want to hear about the meeting.
Well, Bill Malloy came to my house and asked me to come to Roger Collins' office about 11 o'clock.
And?
That's it. That's all I know.
Oh, come on, Sam. Did you go to the meeting?
Yes?
Well, did Burke and Collins show up?
Yes.
Did Malloy show up?
No.
Do you know why he didn't show up?
No?
Well, I'll tell you, Sam, because he was dead. Because he was floating in the water by then.
Are you sure of that?
Well, there aren't too many things about this mess I am sure of, Sam, but yes, that's one of them. Now, let's get back to the meeting. Why did Malloy set it up?
I don't know.
Sam.
Well, that's true. I don't know. Bill came to my house and he said he wanted me to come to Roger Collins' office at 11 o'clock. He didn't tell me why. He just said he wanted me to be there.
And you never learned the reason.
That's right.
Well, let's you and me see if we can't figure it out. All right, let's work on that meeting. You say you don't know why it was called.
That's right.
Sam, do you remember Burke Devlin's manslaughter conviction 10 years ago?
Yeah, sure.
There were some people around town who thought he wasn't guilty of that crime. You remember that?
Yes.
Well, you didn't happen to be one of those people, did you?
No, I never thought much about it.
Why, I thought you always liked Burke, Sam. Back in those days, I mean. That's very strange. He should be tried, sent to prison for 5 years. And you, what did you just say? You never thought much about it?
Sheriff, just what is it that you want from me?
Sam, did you have evidence you should have given at that trial?
Of course not.
I want the truth, Sam.
I'm telling you the truth. Now, what has this got to do with Malloy?
Malloy set that meeting up because he wanted to prove that Burke was innocent of that crime. And he wanted you there because he knew you could help do it.
That's nonsense. Absolute, utter nonsense.
Now, just sit down.
Now, why should Malloy say that?
I asked you to sit down, didn't I?
I tell you, I don't know why the meeting was called.
Oh, but you went anyway, didn't you? At 11 o'clock at night. Now, doesn't that seem a little bit strange?
Malloy was a good friend. He insisted that I go. That I be there.
And you never asked him why?
Of course I did. He said, I'll find out. Now, if you don't believe me, why don't you ask Roger Collins and see what he's got to say about it?
Well, what about Burke Devlin? Think I ought to ask him?
If you want to.
I spoke to Burke earlier today. He said Malloy told him the purpose of that meeting was to exonerate him from that crime. He said he made that very clear.
Well, I don't know anything about it.
Well, why would he lie?
How should I know? I don't know anything about Burke's manslaughter conviction. And that's the honest truth, and that's a fact.
How did you get to the meeting?
I walked.
From your house?
Yes.
How long did it take?
Oh, about half an hour. I left at 10:30, got there about 11 o'clock.
And where would you say you were at about 10:45, say?
About halfway, I guess.
Anybody see you there at 10:45, I mean?
No, What are you getting at? Is, that when Malloy died? 10:45?
You're sure nobody saw you?
You think he was murdered, don't you? You think I killed him? Well, I didn't. I had nothing to do with it.
I didn't say anything about murder, Sam. I just asked you where you were.
No, but that's what you're thinking, isn't it?
Well, if he was murdered, and if what Burke says is true, there are two people who stand to gain by his death. You and Roger Collins.
Joe, I knew you.
Well, hello, son. You the doorman today?
You want to see my father, don't you?
Yes. How did you know that?
It's about Mr. Malloy, isn't it?
Well, is your father here?
Yes. I'll go tell him you're here.
Stay tuned for Where the Action Is next here on ABC. Dark Shadows is a Dan Curtis production. Dark Shadows